Hello, so we are online, I think. We are glad to be with you today to present you two specializations that are offered by the Management Control Department. So we will begin with the Research Analysis and Pack Studies and Consulting specialization. And then we will present, Olivier will present the objectives and content of the Management Control specialization. Maybe first a few words to introduce ourselves. So as I'm speaking, I will take the lead. I'm Philippe Darlowski. I'm a professor in the Management Control Department. I'm doing my teaching and my research in management control, that is to say everything that has to do with performance measurement and management systems. And also I am teaching and doing my research in the field of public management and healthcare management. Olivier, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Olivier Solpic. I'm a professor in the same department, CPO department. I'm also doing my research in performance management systems and especially their effects, and also in the healthcare sector.
Good. So the idea is just to share with you a few features of this specialization, research analysis, pack studies, and consulting. So it's a specialization that we have created with Olivier, taking the opportunity of the reform of the curriculum that has been implemented this year. So we are teaching the specialization for the first time in the academic year 2021. So it's going on now. It's a specialization that is offered in the second semester. So it will be offered for the second time next year. Okay, so I will try to move my, yes. Good. So what is it about? And who should be interested in this specialization? That's the first point. Then we will have a quick overview of the courses that make up the specialization, and then we will have maybe more time to focus on what is maybe more original in the specialization, which is the research-based project. It's one of the courses of the specialization. So what is the positioning of this specialization? What is it about? Who should be interested in it? The idea is that it's targeting, if I can use this word, students that have an interest for research and for practice at the same time. The idea is that we are convinced, Olivier and I, we've been convinced for many years that research may indeed inform practice, and also that through research you can develop skills that are very useful to managers. What are the type of jobs that you can apply to once you have done this specialization? You can, of course, become research-driven consultants. You can also deepen your knowledge of research-related professions, and obviously, if you're interested in an academic career, that's something that you can consider taking this specialization. And more generally, there's a variety of managerial positions in companies and other types of organizations that you can take. You can become an analyst, a strategist, a public affairs officer. Yes, in a variety of organizations. It can be a company, a large company. It can be an NGO, or it can be a public entity. So we have these two sides, if you want, research on the one hand and consulting on the other hand. And we found it in the course content, the portfolio of courses that made up the specialization. First, two courses that are very much centered on consultant behavior and consulting practices. We have a course that is more oriented on research methods. And then we have two courses that are in between the two courses that follow on the list: methods for policy evaluation and impact studies, and research and consulting for social and environmental innovations. And finally, we have a research-based project course. The general idea of this specialization is that it's very much a hands-on approach. So of course, you have, let's say, standard lectures in which you will get access to some content, but it's also a lot very much based on learning new methods, or methods that are new to you, and techniques that are new to you, and that can be useful for consultants and researchers. Also, it's learning by studying how it's been done. That's why we have in sessions that are taught or animated by adjunct professors who are practitioners. And it's also learning by doing. So you will have the possibility to conduct case studies, work in workshops, and also actually work in small groups on projects. So I have a look at the time. Do we still have time? Yes, we do. Okay, so I move on. So the first course in the list, it's consulting behavior. It's an introduction to the jobs and to the practice, or let's say the behavior of the consultant. And it's a course that is actually part of another specialization that is offered by in the MIM program. It's the consulting dynamic specialization. So it's pretty much an introduction to everything you should know about consulting. And the lecturers, I have to move something on my screen because I cannot see, are professors from the management department. As you may know, this consulting dynamic specialization is managed by Professor Daniel Roche, and also by Professor Guy Ménard, who is an affiliate professor at ESCP. Okay, then I don't manage to move my slide, so let me see now. Maybe I have to, yes.
It's okay.
Then about consulting. Consulting practices. This is another course that is very practical oriented. It's a course that has been designed by Thierry Boudès, who is another professor in the management control department. And also the course is given by consultants from two consulting companies, Eurogroup and PwC. So it's very much based on workshops. So I go backwards now. On research, the idea, well, you have access to courses and material about research methods, especially when you are going to do your own research for your master's thesis. Here, the idea of the course is to understand how to make choices when you want to conduct a research, or when to want to design a research. That's the orientation of this course. And we have here three professors of two different departments, sustainability department and management department, that they will share the practice of researchers with you. We have this course, Research and Consulting for Social and Environmental Innovations, that is designed and taught in part by Adrien Baudet. Adrien is an alumnus of the school, of the doctoral program of the school, so he's a doctor in management, and is now a consultant, and so he will share his experience as a researcher and consultant with you on this specific field of social and environmental innovations. Policy evaluation and impact studies. Here it's an introduction to these topics, the methods to evaluate policies, design and evaluate policies, and impact studies. We have here 3 practitioners that again will share with you their practices and their experience. And finally, the last course of the specialization is the research-based project. So it's a course that is a little bit different, as the idea is for you to work in small group on a project that we negotiate for you before the beginning of the semester with a company or with another type of organization. So you will work on this project during 3 months, and of course the company, or more precisely the sponsors of the project, are interested in what you are going to do. It can be the results of your project, of your study, or the outcomes of your project. So this I can skip. Just to give you an idea of the type of projects we are working on, the students are working on at the moment. We have a project with Renault. We have 3 projects with 2 different consulting companies, ICAMS and Coreis. There is a project with an NGO, Earthquake. And finally, we have 2 projects with BNPP in the frame of the chair that we have here at ESCP with BNPP. So maybe more detail about the project. So for ICAMS is a strategy consulting boutique. So it's a small organization with 20 to 30 consultants. And we have at the moment 2 projects this year. So it doesn't mean that we will have the same projects. Most probably we won't have the same projects next year. So just to give you insight of what it can be. One is on the development of specific market in developing countries for the construction materials, and another one conducted in the same company is on the development of new modalities of transportation, and especially of robotaxis, that is to say the autonomous cars, or yes, autonomous vehicles. The sponsors for this project are the CEO of the company and the deputy CEO of the company. We have another project with Adrien Baudet. I mentioned Adrien before because he's also responsible for one of the courses of the concentration of the specialization, and he has created his own consulting company. So the project he has proposed to the students who are taking specialization this semester is based on a new form of corporations that has been established in France, called Société à Mission, corporations with a purpose. And the idea is to figure out how we can assess the performance of this new type of corporations with a purpose. Okay, Earthquake, as I've mentioned to you, it's an NGO that is specialized in finding solutions to recover plastic waste in developing countries. And they are more precisely working on developing a project of fuel producing plastic waste pyrolysis. And the idea is to conduct a strategic analysis of the field of plastic pyrolysis technologies. The sponsor of the project is the CEO of the NGO. We have a project with Renault, and more precisely with a very large organization. So here we are working with the packaging unit of Renault, which is, as you can see, already a large unit, and also with people who are in the supply chain, let's say, department of Renault, or function line of Renault, are trying to develop entrepreneurial projects in the company. And the objective of the project is to study the feasibility of the creation of services to leverage a specific expertise that has been developed in this unit. And the sponsor of the project is the head of this packaging unit and the coordinator of the tribe or tribu entrepreneuriat for the supply chain of Renault. And finally, we have two projects with the BNP chair. One of the projects has to do with the management of people in a team in a remote context. And the other project has to do with what is called in the recruitment process, the onboarding stage, when people join the company. So in other words, the integration of newcomers, and especially again, what is changing when companies have to do that in a remote context. Okay, so I think that's it on my side. Yes, now we have the time for questions.
I think there is a problem. We can't hear you anymore.
Now, yeah,
Okay,
I clicked
sorry.
on a button that I shouldn't have clicked on. I was saying that's it for on my side. For maybe you want to add something on the project.
No, that's fine. I think that's fine. That was clear. I authorized all participants to talk, so I see there was one question on the chat about management control, and I just answered that there would be another presentation for the management control option, but for all of you who are present, you can ask your question either with using the chat or turning on your mic and asking the question orally.
Hello, Professor Philip. Can you hear me?
Very well. Yes.
Okay, because I would like to ask you more about the Renault project. As you said, is it a 3-month project? But the question is, actually, I supposed to choose your major this spring, but due to the COVID, I canceled this. So I was wondering if without COVID, what will this kind of cooperation with Renault become?
Actually, without, it's going to be even easier, because now, well, we have two projects that are based on what is changing when we have to work in a remote context, and that's actually the environment in which we have to work, all of us at the moment. So these projects happen, most of them, in a remote context, which, of course, sometimes makes things more difficult, including for us to negotiate interesting projects with companies, because, well, as you know, everyone has more to do. Sometimes it's more difficult to work remotely all the time. It takes more time. So I think when we are in a context that is easier, if the sanitary outbreak is behind us, it's going to be easier. I mean, it's going to be easier to find projects and to interact with companies. The idea is that you visit sometimes the company on their premises, so have meetings with the sponsors, and at the same time, you have meeting with us, Olivier and I, who are, if you want, helping you to frame your project, checking that everything is on good tracks, answering the questions that you may have in terms of methods, mainly. So you have two types of people helping you for your project: the sponsors in the company and your professors, Olivier and I, at ESCP. Does it answer your question,
sorry.
Julia?
Oh, sorry for interrupt you, Professor Olivier, because I just have another question. That's my final one. Is
Yes.
How many people would join this major every year? Like it's around 10 or 20?
We have more students than that this year. I think it's 44, no, Olivier?
Yes, I think it's, yeah, it's more
44.
than 40. It's around 43, 44.
I think it's 44. I'm not
Yes.
sure, but so it's been this year, even though it's been the first time we are offering this specialization. It's been successful, so we don't know if it's going to be the same every year. So it's quite a large specialization. Yes, we have many students. And
Thank you very much.
So I see one question on the chat. Can we decide to which project we will be assigned? So this year, yes, actually we proposed 7 projects, and we organized a process so that the students can choose their project. So I think we will keep something like this next year, but we didn't discuss that with Philippe yet. But we realized that also there is something about you choosing the project you would like, you're interested in because of many reasons, the type of company, the nature of the project. But there is also an issue in terms of different competencies in the group. And it happens that you have different profiles when you arrive at the specialization in some of you are in the second year of the master, some of you in the first year. So we may try to find out ways to organize the groups as well. So it will be a combination of your choice and maybe some inputs from us. But
yes.
This year, as a matter of fact, we asked 3 choices, and I think more than 80% got their first choice, maybe 15% their second choice, and maybe 1 or 2 their third choice. So that's maybe.
Actually, for this specialization, as we had more projects and more people, everybody got at least either their first choice or their second choice. So that's, I think.
And maybe one point I wanted to mention as a follow-up of Philippe's remark is that really, so that students give us this feedback that in this kind of projects, us as professors, we are really as what we call a guide on the side approach rather than a sage on stage. So I think it's yes, I think it's a specificity. So we are helping you answering the question, and maybe we could develop that further, but for reformulating the question, but also answering the question So our help is really at different levels, but our goal is really to improve your final results. Are there other questions? I don't see other question on the chat.
Well, I think maybe it's okay. We can move to.
There is another question. The focus on environmental issues will be stronger next year. So what this focus is so there are two instances where we talk about environmental issues. Is the course by Adrien Baudet, which addresses these issues in a specific way. So it's Philippe developed that is an example of a field about social, environmental and social issues in which the course goal is to illustrate consulting and research-based approaches on this specific topic. And the second possibility for environmental issues is the project themselves.
Actually, also the course on impact studies, it's
yes,
one
true.
of the components of, of, let's say, performance dimension that is addressed when we look at impact studies. And indeed, also the projects. And there's several projects that are focused on environmental issues, either directly or indirectly. There's a project proposed by precisely Adrien. I think it has very much to do with, let's say, environmental or societal issues. There's the Earthquake project, and there's the project on the urban mobility, which has a lot to do because, of course, it's autonomous vehicle and electric vehicles. Yeah. And we can even say that the two projects with the chair, in a way, are related to this new work and a societal environment in which we have to do things in a remote context, and this has, in a way, also a positive impact on the environment.
Julia, does it answer your question?
Actually, well, not surprisingly, thank you for the question. I think it's interesting. I reflect on it while I'm talking to you. Even the packaging project has a lot to do with environmental concerns. Because the type of expertise and specific know-how that has been developed by Renault is also to decrease the environmental impact of the packaging that the car maker has to use.
And we don't have much feedback. It's difficult to ask feedback in the middle of a course, but actually I had a meeting with one of the project groups this week, and I asked them for some feedback, and one of them emphasized that this dimension was well taken into account by several courses, and I come back to one of these courses, and so they had the feeling that yes, this dimension is really part of the specialization. So if there is no other question.
Yeah, maybe we can move to the second presentation. So I'm not sure what I should do. Should I stop mine? As you can see, we are not completely familiar with the tool. I think I have to stop it, no, Olivier?
I don't know.
Olivier, je vais vous désigner comme présentateur.
Okay.
Vous pourrez partir. Du coup, votre écran sera diffusé.
Yes, so I need to move to. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the second specialization offered by the department. I have too many things on my screen for the moment. I can't even read my. Okay, so the agenda is about the same. I don't have an agenda of the presentation, but I will develop why specializing in management control. What are the jobs that you can target after this specialization, and what is the content of the specialization. So maybe depending on which year you are, but we know that after the pre-master year, at least for those who are in pre-master, you don't know much about management control. So this is why I put one slide about this topic. So first, performance management is not a very simple issue. So there are lots of questions around performance management, and it's at the core of organization functioning. So it's about aligning. So there is a typo there, strategic alignment. It's about orienting behavior. So these performance management systems are really key for organizations. The second is, though you don't all know the words, you have heard a lot about accounting or finance, but as a matter of fact, management control is one of the main activities of chief financial officers. So it's a key topic for financial management. And as for managers, they use management system, they use scorecard, they use planning, they use budgeting. So it's if you want to become for any type of manager, understanding performance management is a key issue. And finally, talking about performance, talking about KPIs, talking about incentives, is really this broad topic is also have a societal dimension. So you can hear about these topics even by reading or listening to the medias for the importance of indicators for sustainability issues, or in the public sector, the notion of performance has been really widespread now. So for which jobs, let's maybe, so it's about either being on the side of management control tools or on the user sides, but basically the jobs are, if you want to become a CFO, which could start by being a controller. Even in some large companies, the controllers, their title is actually CFO, and some CFO have broader responsibilities than only management control, but for some of them, it's really identical. If you want to become a consultant in organizations, so that's also could be useful, because as I said, performance management and performance management systems are the core organization functioning. So it's a key topic for consultants in organization or information system. And it can be also useful if you want to become a manager, rather in large organizations where these systems have maybe more impact than in small organizations. So why? Because management control is one of the main, as I said, topic for CFOs, because management control is at the core of organization, and because performance management is key. In terms of content, so we have three, I would say, management, accounting, and control advanced elective courses. The three first, I will describe them. It's all 30 hours courses, and they are open courses, so they're not closed for the participant to the specialization. And there is one intervention-based course, which for those who are here is very close in terms of spirit to the research-based project for the previous specialization. And this course is reserved to specialization, to the students who follow the specialization. And so there are a bit less professors in charge of these courses than in the previous, but there are 6 professors for the courses. They are all in the CPO department, and also several practitioners. I didn't count the number of practitioners. I will go into, so before I go into the detail of some details about the different elective courses, what could, apart from the job you want to have after the school, what could you could trigger your application to so it's not, sorry, it's an old name of the option, so it was management control. You should read management control. So I would say an interest for facts, figures, and analysis, because we are talking about formal systems. We are talking about systems that are based on figures and on which we try to carry out analysis. An interest for management systems. So if you, part of the organization are based on management systems and performance management system or management control system, they are very, I don't know, sort of ideal types of management systems. And maybe since we are doing our research with Philippe in the healthcare sector, it happens now that now the large reforms of the healthcare systems that occur in all countries around the world, they rely a lot on management systems. So the topic of management system is a key topic for change management in organization. A concern for translating strategic global perspective into effective action, because management control is at this interface. So if you like strategic thinking, it's part of the idea, but it's much more about implementing the strategy, the management control. A concern for deepening your understanding of organization, because again, where management control is a core organizational process, so you go into the functioning of an organization. Increasing your managerial network, because there are projects, so you're going to work with organization. Mixing operational issues with theoretical perspectives, because as I will develop, in most courses we try to rely on also research or academic work, but as a way to understand and act upon operational and practical issues, and also a concern for performance issue, and there is one more word missing, and their societal impact or consequences. And in terms of learning approach, I would say that it's a very operational specialization. What does it rely on this intervention-based course? So you will have to carry out a project regarding a management control question issue of an organization. So it's really hands-on, and there are lots of practitioners intervention. It's technical because we are talking about systems, we are talking about techniques, It's cooperative. There is a teamwork. There is the importance of the human dimension. It's also critical, so it's also there on the intervention-based course, because we want you to have a sort of critical take on the question raised by the companies. We use academic papers. There is a reflexive stance about all these systems. Okay, now if I move on, I'll give some more description of the different, if I have time, yes, I think I have time, of the different elective. So one is about human dimensions, behavioral dimensions of performance measurement system. So as it's written on the slide, it's to raise awareness of the stakes, human stakes behind performance management tools, because these tools, they are there to orient the behavior of employees, persons working in organizations. So the different topics are what are the different control alternatives for orienting behaviors, management control and culture, which is a key topic, management control and incentive systems, the question of rankings and ratings, and the question all these tools raise, and also in terms of human consequences, and the same for budgeting. And to give you an idea of the type of teaching, a typical session is a lecture from the teacher, a group work and presentations of academic papers, and a testimony by a manager. So there is really something about articulating theory, your participation, and also a managerial and practical approach. And this course is organized by two colleagues from the department, who are Claire Dambrun and Françoise Giraud. Maybe you met them in the previous courses. The second course is about designing and implementing performance measurement system. So it's really about the design of a performance management system. So for those who follow the management control course, you already know about some of the tools, but here it's an advanced course in management control, where we try to talk much more about how to design, how to implement, not necessarily only describe the system and their consequences. And it's basically a case study approach with practitioner insights for 4 out of those 10 sessions. So there is practitioners who share their experience, practitioners who talk about their topics, or who teach a case study. Then there is a course about new trends in controlling, the strategic and digital challenge. So there are 2 subtopics in this course: strategic cost management and digital transformation, and big data or artificial intelligence in management control and related domains. So the issue is how to adapt all these tools and integrate them with the new perspectives opened by digitalization, big data, and artificial intelligence. So of course, big data is on all these new tools are transform the way we can carry out management control, because we have more and more data available. So the question that the course tackles is how this influences management control or management accounting. And it's a case study approach, and also with a group project. And then the specific course for the specialization is it's called Diagnosis of a Performance Management System, but in fact, it's an intervention-based course with a work in small groups on an operational project proposed by a company. So like for the previous specialization, we negotiate before with companies topics that on which these companies have questions, and you have to provide an answer. So it's management control topics here, which can have an environmental dimension with the measurement of environmental issues, but not necessary to connect with the previous questions. And it's the same organization as for the previous course, with a sponsor in the company and a tutor. So it's a course taught by Philippe and I, and each of us tutor one of each of the group or some groups. And as I said in the previous comment, it's a guide on site approach to teaching versus sales on stage. So I didn't prepare slides with the examples. I think Philippe had a good idea of the companies and the type of projects that we work with. So we have had each year a project, 2 projects or several projects with Renault. So there the contact is CFOs at Renault, and some projects are about defining new dashboards, so make a proposition. So last year it was proposing a dashboard for electrical vehicles. There are also projects about modeling tools, modeling the networking capital, modeling this year there is a project about how to optimize the flows between countries in terms of cars that are sent to the countries in order to maximize the margins. There are projects about this year with large companies like the French Railway, SNCF, about their budgeting process, and the sponsor. So one key important point is that the sponsors are usually at a quite high level. So we have projects with medium-sized companies where the CFO is the sponsor. At SNCF this year, it's a person who is a member of the financial department at the headquarter level, and they're making a diagnosis on how to simplify the budgeting process. There is another project in a medium-sized company about their reporting system, about indirect costs. There is a project with a rather smaller company about implementing a new dashboard for the commercial function. So this gives you an overview of the different projects we have and the type of companies. So a varied type of companies in terms of size, and also different types of topics. Maybe Philippe can add something about and maybe I can stop sharing my screen.
Sorry, my mic was off. Yes, I was saying that when you are interested in management control, we've noticed that some of you are more interested in the, let's say, managerial part of management control, and some of you are more interested in the technicalities of management control. And so we have these 2 sides in the project. Some of them are more organizational and managerial. For example, typically the development of dashboard, because when you develop a new dashboard, you have to take into account who is going to use the dashboard and to what end. So you have to pay attention to the very much to the organizational context and use of the tool. And we have other projects that are, as Olivier has said, more oriented on the modelization of flows or costs and costing systems. So more technical projects. And I think
Yes, technical means an extensive use of Excel and with real data. So what people, so both are interesting. So there is not a value, but the students, their feedback is that they're going into real life. They have actual data about the cost, the costing system. They see the system, they see the figures.
Yeah.
So there is one question about, is it suitable for supply chain management?
Well, in my view, there are, how can I say that? The supply chain has a lot to do with KPIs. And in that, it's very close in terms of approach to what we do at ESCP in management control, I would say. It's supply chain today. If you want to be a supply chain manager, of course, you have to be familiar with the systems. It's very much, there's very much to do with performance measures. And you also have to have developed a very good understanding of the operating process of the company, the operations of the company, and finally, the way responsibilities are organized in the company. So in that, I would say there are proximities between the field of supply chain and management control. But this being said, there is a content that is specific to supply chain, and there is a content that is specific to management control. So let's say there are skills that would be transversal to both fields, but there is also a content that is specific to each one of them.
Are there other questions? It's the right time to ask questions in some ways. We are here.
Yes. But if you don't have question now, or if the questions come later, of course, do not hesitate to contact us. You have our names, so you can easily find our email addresses if you use the mailing system. Do not hesitate to do it. We can also put you in touch with the specializations representatives. If you want to have another perspective on what is going on, I think it's something that we can do. What do you think, Olivier?
Yes, of course.
So don't hesitate to contact us. Yeah, we will be pleased to answer the questions that you may have.